Hello everyone and welcome back. This is part 2 of the How to Buy a House Step-by-Step series, and in part 1 we talked about having a mindset that you must have when buying a home and how important it is to have them because you don't want to get so frustrated and discouraged so early in the process. So today we'll talk about part 2, which is knowing your current situation and then having a plan. So let's just get to it. So once you get your mindset right, take a deep breath, face the facts, and know your situation. And you want to know your situation because you don't want to go in blind and unprepared. Most people feel nervous, anxious, unsure, scared, mainly because they are unprepared. Being prepared and knowing your situation will help put you at ease and give you a sense of direction. Just imagine if you were to go across the country and you don't have a map or a GPS. Imagine how anxious you would feel, how unsure you would be. But if you have a map, a GPS, or a plan, not only will you feel more secure, more confident traveling across the country, but you'll also save time. This process is the same way. We want you to have the same feeling of being confident and comfortable during the process of buying a house. By the way, I want to mention one more mindset to have here, and I should have included this in the last video, but you can totally do this. I've been doing this since 1998, and I've had many buyers tell me that they didn't think they could do it. Yes, they were nervous throughout the entire process, but they were glad that they stuck with it. So as much as I try to get my buyers prepared up front, I guess it's just human nature to still be nervous if you've never done it before. Very understandable, and the more reason why you should work with a great real estate professional. Having the right guidance and having a good attitude certainly helps too. Let's get back to today's topic, shall we? So knowing your current situation is hard for some people because they don't know their financial situation, mainly because they're either afraid to know it, they're embarrassed about it, or they don't want to get disappointed. But this is exactly what the next step that you need to take. I know that buying a house can be a scary process, but working with professionals who do this day in and day out will help you get ready. So to know your current situation, you need to talk with a lender. And there is no charge for this consultation. It's free. So you can either find one on your own by talking to friends and relatives, or if you're already working with a real estate professional, they will know someone who they can refer you to who will do a great job and take care of you. So you want to go ahead and talk with a lender at this point because you'll find out 3 very important things. Number 1 is you'll know what your current financial situation is. Number 2, you'll know what your credit situation is. And number 3, you know what type of loans are available and which will work best for you. And we'll go through each one in detail. So knowing the above, you will then know what to do next. If you didn't qualify, then you know what you need to work on. Let's just say that you didn't qualify or you qualified, but you'd like to get a better rate or whatever, and you need to do a few things to the above situation. So let's address each of the above. By the way, your lender and I, we do not expect you to have everything ready. So don't worry. This is what this free consultation is all about. But if you do have your ducks in a row, then it will be easier for all parties. Number 1, your financial situation. After talking with a lender, you'll have a very good idea if you have enough money to close on a house. So here are some questions to ask yourself. Do you have enough money for a down payment? Depending on the loan, your down payment could be a big fat 0 or 3%, 3.5%, 5% or more. So keep in mind, the more money you put down, the less your mortgage balance will be. So of course, your monthly payments will be lower as well. Do you also have enough money for closing costs? Your closing costs could be anywhere from 2 to 4% of the purchase price. Do you have enough money for the inspections and for the appraisal, which could run you around $1,100? By the way, if you were to find a home or you run into a home that fell through, for instance, the previous buyer might have already ordered inspections. So you can save some money here by maybe getting a copy of the inspection and review it. Now, you can review those inspections, and if you like them, go ahead and use them. But I always recommend that you go ahead and order your inspections. Reason being is you might have saved money on that reports that they have, but you won't be able to actually stand next to the inspector and ask questions after they go through the walkthrough of the home with you and tell you what their findings are. The reports that you get will be detailed, but then again, it always sounds a lot worse than if you were to stand there, talk to the inspector, and they tell you exactly what those issues are. So keep that in mind. Also ask yourself, will you need to get a down payment assistance loan, or will you need to get the seller to cover part or all of your closing costs? Will your loan allow you to receive a gift? Now, if it does, most of the loans will allow you to get a gift. However, make sure to talk to your lender, let them know where your gift is coming from, because it can't just come from any party. It must come from a relative. Another question is, do you need to get a part-time job or get a side hustle in order for you to buy that home? I've had many buyers, clients work for or drive for Lyft or Uber just to qualify to get that home. Another good question to ask yourself is, do you have any other funds coming in soon? An inheritance or maybe a settlement or from selling old stuff? Now, if you do, by the way, talk to your lender. Don't just deposit right away, because they may want that sort of what's called a paper trail. They want to know where it's coming from, and they want to make sure that the way you deposit it or the timeline that you deposit it meets the guidelines of the investor behind the loan that they're giving you. Here's a good question to ask. Can you use your 401k money or retirement money for the purchase of this home? Make sure, though, that you ask your tax person to know what the risks are of doing this. Can you have a cosigner? Think of this. If you have someone that's going to be living with you in your home, and say they're retired or they're getting some kind of a pension or Social Security or any kind of income, if they're going to be living with you, might as well consider adding them to the loan. That way, both of you will qualify to buy this home together. Number 2, your credit score. After talking with a lender, of course, you're going to know what your credit situation is. A little lesson here. Different loans will require a different minimum credit score. Your credit is one of the ways the banks will determine your risk as a borrower. So the better your score, the better your rate. So it makes sense to have your score as high as possible, right? So one thing to know is that the lenders will go off of the middle of your 3 scores. There are 3 different bureaus or credit companies, so of course you're going to have 3 different scores. You have TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and the lender will use the middle of the 3 scores. If your middle score doesn't meet the guidelines of the banks to get the best rate, then you'll go to the next tier, which is going to be a higher rate. So what do you do if you need to increase your credit score or if you don't have any credit? Well, tough luck. Just kidding. The fastest way for you to have credit or to increase your credit is if you have someone, a relative or someone who's got good credit, who will add you to their credit card as an authorized user. This is the fastest way, and if you can find someone, it will help you tremendously. What if I don't have anyone who will add me as an authorized user to their card? You may ask. Well, tough luck. Just kidding. And to best answer that question, let's go ahead and take a look at this infographic, and that way you can determine what you can do to increase your credit score, and then we'll talk about how you can create credit after we go through this infographic. So this is how your credit score is calculated. So you want to go through these, look at your credit report and see how any of these might apply to your credit, and see where you can probably do something to help you improve your credit score. 35% will come from your payment history. That's pretty self-explanatory. Make sure you make your payments on time. Automate your payments to where it's taken out every single month automatically, so you never miss a payment. Now, 30%, this is a big deal here, amount that you use of your credit limit. Just make sure that you look at this, utilizing the percentage of your credit limit to around 30%. That's where you can get the best score. New credit, you want to do this after a while. You don't want to get new credit right away, but after a little while, you want to create new credit. And what you can do with this new credit, it doesn't have to be a credit card. You might want to buy a furniture or something like that. So it will apply to this credit mix. Mortgage companies will look at you better if you have a mix of credit that you pay off. If you were to purchase, say for instance, a small furniture or finance something and you pay it off within 3 to 6 months, that will help you towards your credit mix, and that will help you with your score as well. Credit card, an unsecured credit card, or even just a secured credit card, and you've had them for a little while, the longer you have them, the better for you. Don't cancel a credit card too soon, because that will affect your credit. So try to keep it as long as you can. So looking at these, determine to see, after you look at your credit score, to see which one might apply to you and which one you can do to help you increase your credit score. What if you don't have any credit? What do you do? Well, what I would recommend, and this is what I did, is first apply for a secured card. And what it is you send some amount of money to a credit card company, say maybe 300, and that 300 becomes your credit line. At this point, I know I said it before, is not to use more than 30% of your credit line, but this time it's okay. Use about 100 of your 300 credit line, but just pay it off every month, okay? And do this for about 6 months. And after 6 months, then go ahead and apply for an unsecured credit card. And when you apply, you may get approved, but when you get approved, a few things to keep in mind is your credit line might be small. You will have to pay a yearly fee for that card. Also probably have a very high interest rate, but it's okay as long as you pay it off. This time when you do have a unsecured credit card, go ahead and use only about 30% or less of your credit line. You don't have to pay it off if you don't have to. Just keep in mind that if you don't, you will pay that high interest rate for the remaining balance. Then after 6 months, you do it over again, and maybe hopefully this time you will get a higher credit line. Your unsecured card, your secured card, keep them as long as you can, because remember, 15% of the makeup of your credit score is from you keeping your credit card for a long time. Real quick, before we get to number 3, if you've gotten value so far in this video, I would appreciate it if you go ahead and click that like button, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Number 3, type of loan. There are many different types of loans out there, and some will be better than others for you. And it will depend on your situation, like your credit score or your credit situation, as well as your financial situation. That's why I talked about those two first. Getting a conventional loan, though they may have the best rate, may not be the best loan overall for you, and your lender will determine that for you. Let's just say maybe if you don't have enough funds, a 3.5% down FHA might be better for you. Even though they may have a 3% down conventional loan, they do require a higher credit score. And if you don't have that, then of course an FHA might be better for you. If you're a veteran, you can use your VA loan and get a no down payment type of loan, which is great, right? You can also use a USDA loan, which is mostly for rural properties, but some areas or some homes in the city will actually qualify as a rural property. And sometimes, depending on the situation, this type of loan may also include financing some of your closing costs. Again, talk to your lender. If you are a first-time home buyer or someone who has not owned a home in the last 3 years, you may qualify for first-time homebuyer programs. And some of these programs you might have to pay back, some you don't. Some, if you stay in the property long enough, you don't have to pay at all. Some are just grants, but some you do have to pay back, so keep that in mind. However, also, some of these programs not only cover your down payment, but part of your closing costs as well. They're not going to cover everything. However, the less amount of money you have to bring to the table might work best for your situation. So make sure to talk to your lender and ask about these type of programs. If you're a low-income household family, there might be some programs from the city. Some of these programs will actually buy homes and they fix them up. So if you qualify for their property or their program, then you can buy those properties. Now, they can't just sell those properties to anyone. There are some income limitations. So those programs are for low-income households. Now, these type of programs may also require that you talk to a certain loan officer or use a certain bank. So make sure you talk to your lender to see if they're familiar with these programs first. And then 2, if they are one of those loan officers that you can use for these type of programs. By the way, some of these programs do run out of money, so make sure you talk to your lender and see if those are still available. And if they're not, just go ahead and also ask to see when they'll be back. So it's critical that you go ahead and talk with a lender at this time so you know your current situation. Once you know your current situation, not only will you know what you need to do next to qualify if you didn't, or to improve your qualification, but you'll have a plan. That's the most important thing. Once you have a plan, then you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel will look a lot brighter. I know this can be a scary process, but if you work with professionals who do this day in and day out, then you'll see that the entire process will be a lot smoother and a lot easier. You can totally do this. You might have some work to do, but next thing you know, if you keep at it, you'll be moving in to your new home. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and make sure to click on that bell to get notification for part 3 of this series. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you around town.